own it, baby. So you can own your square. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Center Square. I'm Pat Laurie. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, I've got a question for you. Are you owning your mouth? Well, today on Center Square, we are going to be talking about how your voice can influence your presentations, how you can punch it up to give a pop in your presentations, in your video, because it's really important when you go on video to be aware of your voice. And I am super excited today because we have the queen of voice coming with us today on the show, Randy Kay. She is a voiceover artist, a radio host, a personality. You might remember her from Star 99.9 back in the day. She is also a singer and actress. And get this, she has voiced over 150 audiobooks. Wow, I am so pleased to bring on today the one and only Randy Kay. Randy,
hello, Pat Laurie. How are you?
Hey, oh my gosh, it's so great to have you here today, Randy. You know, I remember listening to your voice for so long on the radio, and you always made me feel so good. And you had this like silky, wonderful, beautiful voice. And I was like, I want to have a voice like her.
Oh, thank you. No, because then you wouldn't be you. So you don't want to have my voice. You want to have your voice because I am so trained to listen to qualities of people's voices. My voice wouldn't fit you.
Well, you know what? You bring up a good point because everybody has the ability to use their voice in an influential way. And so today we're going to give our audience some tips and tricks on how they can really, how you can use vocal tools to really change your voice and punch up everything in your presentation. So tell me about the importance of a voice.
Okay, well, a lot of your listeners are live presenters, but others may be in a recording situation. I will tell you, in my work as a voice talent and an audiobook narrator and radio as well, people will forgive visuals that aren't perfect, but people will turn off an e-learning, an audiobook, or turn away from a radio station if they don't like the sound of your voice or they don't like the inflection in your voice. And so I want everybody to be yourself. You don't want to be someone you're not. I'm never going to sound like Bette Midler or I'm not going to sound like Bernadette on Big Bang Theory. We are who we are. And yet, as with everything, we want to make the best of what we have and know that we've stretched our voice to express ourselves freely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it matters. It actually reaches a part of the brain that visuals don't. So
yeah, and it's emotional, right? I mean, we can feel when someone speaks, it evokes emotions.
absolutely.
So let's talk about how we can use our voice to really punch up that presentation, get an effect that we're looking for, and really, sort of make a change in people's lives. How do we go about that? I mean, there are vocal techniques, right?
Yes, there definitely are. And that's a big, tall order for a voice. I don't think of it as punching up a presentation. I think of it as communicating as effectively as possible. And if you think about real life, now, people's voices are different. Some people kind of talk flat, and some people are very, very expressive. And a lot depends on the situation, and it depends on who we're talking to. I know very few people who can talk to a dog or a toddler without going, oh my gosh, that's so cute. Like, we all use a lot of inflection when we know, without even thinking about it, who we are trying to reach. And the things we use in everyday conversation are things that we've been doing for so long we're not aware of them. The trick of good vocal use is becoming aware of the elements of your voice so that you can recreate them if necessary, or stretch them if they're rusty. And those four elements would be, well, volume is an obvious one. I'm not going to talk to you the same if you're next to me as if you're across a football field. Another one is emotional tone. And again, we do this without thinking. This is not news, but someone who says, oh, it's hot out, feels differently about heat than someone who says, oh, it's hot out. It's the same words. It's just a different sound and a different emotional tone. So emotional tone happens automatically when we feel something, unless we're trying to hide it. But that doesn't always work, hiding the emotions. So we have tone, we have volume, and then we have pitch. And that has to do with the expressiveness of our voice. some people are very monotone and they talk like this, and that's a bit of an exaggeration. That's more like a robot. But you all know, you've all seen interviews. I'm sure as a journalist, you have interviewed people, and you can't get them to be expressive, and they don't even move their mouth, and they're kind of answer a line. You wonder how holden they are to not be expressive, but a lot of that has to do with pitch. There's a difference between once upon a time there was a beautiful princess, or once upon a time there was a beautiful princess, or which is hardly any pitch at all, or more likely, once upon a time there was a beautiful princess. And if you're doing that, you're not using a lot of pitch, but just enough to reach a more sophisticated listener than a 2-year-old. So the use of pitch also can put us into bad patterns. The most glaring example is what we call uptalk. You know, when you talk about the mall and the guy there was really cute, and then you went there, and don't you want to hear my story? And isn't that funny? And everything goes up at the end of every sentence, almost like you are insecurely looking for the listener's approval. That is a repetitive pattern of pitch that will turn people off very quickly. So
I think, Randy, I think that all of these tips are so great, because a lot of us, when in normal conversation, we're just not aware of how we're speaking. We're just speaking, and we're not analyzing how we're speaking. But by the way, you did do my Bucky voice earlier, which is really up here. Bucky, come on. And
we all do. It's like
it's like the baby voice. Yeah, it's like you go into baby mode. But I think all of these tips are really great, because we have such a wide variety inside this instrument that we need to bring out. And I think when people do presentations or videos, they're just not aware of all the ways that they can vary up a presentation, how to add spice to even something that's, horribly dry, right? So how would you do that, maybe?
Well, first of all, I'm not a huge fan of memorizing every word. I know that, as a voiceover talent, I have to read things. Unless it's a commercial where ad-libbing is encouraged, which is always fun. If I am narrating an audiobook, I cannot change anything. If it's a typo, maybe, but I cannot change the author's words. And so I have to be totally true to the accuracy of the words on the paper, and yet sound as though I am thinking of those thoughts myself and they're coming out of my mouth. So part of that is just being aware of reading rhythm. Dick and Jane had a dog, and it's so sometimes when we memorize speeches or presentations word for word, and we're closing ourselves off to what's happening in the room or happening with the person we're interviewing, it comes across like we're seeing words in our head and we're reading. So we have to leave some of the presentation, whatever that might be, open to the thoughts that come into our heads. And that will play itself out in rhythm and pitch and pausing.
Yes, I was just going to ask you about pausing. People, I think, are fearful of taking a half a second pause, especially on video. It feels like a lifetime, right?
But especially on video, you have a face, and that pauses are never empty. They are either filled with a panic that you can hear or see, which is they do not know what's coming next, or they can be filled with thought. Our faces change when we think. And so if we're thinking of the right way to say the next thing, that's an interesting pause. If we're pausing to gauge how our audience is reacting, that's an interesting pause. And pauses, any speaking coach will tell you that pauses are much more powerful than ums and and you knows and all those filler things that we don't use. So pausing is powerful. Repetition can be powerful, but now I'm getting more into wordsmithing rather than the voice itself.
Well,
don't be afraid to slow down on occasion, to wait on occasion, to speed it up if this is an exciting part. It doesn't have to be completely, nor should it be completely rhythmic speaking. So rhythm, pitch, emotional tone, and volume are the tools at our disposal for making our voice as expressive as we normally are in real life, and sometimes even more.
Awesome. All right. So let's talk about, it's very important, the vocal warm-up. And I'd love to go through just a very quick vocal warm-up, because, you shouldn't be expected to just show up and open your mouth and speak. I mean, you have to go through these warm-ups because they're going to help with everything. So tell us a little bit about, your warm-up.
Okay, well, I am a stage singer, and so I have singing warm-ups as well. But I've really made it my goal in 2021 to study the speaking voice and learn as much as I can. And a lot of them are similar to singing warm-ups, but you want to think of a few things. One is your breathing. Two is your resonance. Three is the path your voice takes to go from your breath through your vocal cords and out with some projection. And you're in trouble when your muscles tense up, when your muscles tense up at the base of your tongue, when your muscles tense up in your throat, when your shoulders go up like this. So a warm up can be a whole body warm up. I know we're short on time, but do the same things you would do to warm up for an exercise session. You can do the ragdoll where you lean over and hang your head and just loosen up your body. You can do the stretches. Neck stretches are huge. These muscles shouldn't feel tight when you're recording. So you can go online and see any of those. You also need to warm up your mouth and your tongue and your jaw. So massage and just like, sighing is really good, like a pleasurable sigh. Breathe in, and you want to breathe not into your shoulders. You want to breathe into your belly. It should even feel like it's going in your back. And I could say so much about breathing, but I think one of the easiest ways to feel what it feels like to breathe is to, as you're sitting, lean forward, put your elbows on your knees, almost like you're sitting on the toilet. There's a magazine on the floor and you're trying to read it while you're sitting there. If you take a deep breath,
it really opens you up, yeah.
Yeah, it can't go into your shoulders. It's going to go into your belly and your back. And that means your diaphragm is pulling down. And that's where a breath should be. Now, I had been up since 3 a.m. because I just did an 8-hour shift on a radio station. Now, my voice should be worn out, but it's not, because in the car on the way to the radio station, you wouldn't run a marathon without warming up your body. So you don't go into a radio shift or an audiobook session without warming up your voice. And that can be sirens. And if you hear that little catch, which often happens, just do it a few more times.
Wow, I've never done that one before.
Okay, and you can do it trying to keep your lips buzzing. Hum like, and if you feel that buzz, and the lips should buzz, but as you get higher, you may feel the buzz go up here. So you want to be aware of your resonance.
It does wake up your lips, definitely.
Yeah, wakes up your lips. You can also put your tongue behind the ridge behind your upper teeth and do an N sound and may feel that buzz. Not like you're saying N. And you should feel the buzz between your tongue and there. If you're saying and then you lower the back of your tongue, you're going to get an NG sound. And then it's going to go into your nose. Again, this sounds ridiculous, but you want to be aware.
No, it helps. I do these. You know what I do is I go.
Warms up your lip.
So I do that, 10 times, and it really does. It helps tighten up my diction. Yes. And, I guess we could also employ tongue twisters too, right? What's your favorite?
Absolutely. So we want to warm up the resonance, but we also want to, and make sure that you're not feeling this tension. So warming up the lips, singers are, so same as you, or the tongue trills where the tongue is behind the teeth. You can also do the sirens. There's so many, I can't even go into them.
Oh, I love it.
Articulation is important. So I know you were telling me, because we're friends, you go ooh, ah, or you can do the ooh sound and just feel your lips open up to ooh, wow. But there's consonants. So one of my favorites from the National Theatre in England is do daily deeds diligently.
Ooh.
And here's my favorite articulation. See, notice I have a wine cork in my voice. And it's not because I'm married. It's because you can, if you're having trouble, you're having a sloppy day and your muscles just aren't awake, I will kind of chew on the words, and it isn't pretty. I would never do it on video, though I just did. But if you want to practice, put this cork or markers, whatever you have, but I like the cork. This has a little give. And
Top of the spray bottle.
okay, talk like this for a while. It's
Oh,
articulation. That may be a bit big for you.
I think that's a bit
The point
big.
is, you want to get all those consonants said. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And then when you take that cork out, your articulation is automatically better.
I have never done that. I'm going to do that. AJ Myers is joining us. Thanks so much, AJ.
Well, AJ, so get drunk. Yes, that helps too, but not this early.
The cork one is really fun, but you have to use your mouth and you have to train the muscles of your mouth. And, if you don't, you're just going to get sloppy and you're going to slur and you're going to slip up, especially in the morning. And so these are really, really helpful tips. But, before we go, I want to ask you, though, about what is the best drink to warm up, to help your vocal cords or to warm up your mouth?
So everybody has their favorites. I like room temperature water. I'm sort of a purist. Some people put lemon in it. I don't. Hydration is extremely important, and you want to do it constantly because the vocal folds are tissues, and you can't pour water on something and expect it to be hydrated. It could be like a dry sponge. You want to hydrate it from the inside out constantly. So everything you do for your good health is good for your vocal health. You want to avoid foods that make you very mucousy. And that's another thing is phlegm and sinus problems. So
especially this time of year. So should people avoid dairy if they're,
you have to pay attention to your body and see. Dairy is not great for me. Neither is red wine, but I'm not giving it up. I just moderate. If you have wine or coffee, hydrate.
Clearly, you have that cork nearby.
Let's see there. No, I can't even tell you how old this cork is, but still has the red on it. See, but hydration. I feel like we can't possibly cover everything. Stay healthy. Some people do a humidifier at night. Some people have a humidifier. That's my voiceover booth behind me. Some people keep one in there and turn it off when they record.
Yep.
Keep water handy. If you find yourself getting sloppy, stop and re-warm up if you can. You can't do this in the middle of a speech, obviously.
Yeah.
But now I'm getting dry because I've been talking since 3 a.m. But
oh my gosh, Randy, you are a superstar. All right, so I want to ask you.
I warmed up. I'm fine. So warm up your voice. Notice tension when you're speaking. Drop those shoulders. And when you're breathing, breathe into your diaphragm. And when you can, breathe through your nose. Because the problem with speaking a lot is we breathe through our mouth and we dries everything out. So sometimes I will stop. Yeah, I'm all clogged up. I'll stop and do some alternate nostril breathing, or just make sure I breathe through my nose a few times, use a little saline, whatever. Everybody has their favorites. I will tell you, if anybody wants to contact me, I will send you a link, or you can probably go to my YouTube channel, which is a work in progress, but I do have a playlist on there of some of my favorite vocal warm-ups. So just Randy K, you see how to spell my name, just search for me on YouTube. And
that's awesome. So let me just ask you, Randy, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I want to ask you though, so what are you working on next? You've done 150 audiobooks. What types of audiobooks do you do, and what are you working on next?
I do whatever they cast me in. So the next audiobook I am doing, I'm up for one that might start in a week, but is The Power of Patience, which was good for me since I'm not very patient. And let's just say I work on being patient. So that's the next one I'm doing. It's a nonfiction. And after that, I'm doing another one in a series of, they're called Cozy Mysteries. They're sort of Nancy Drew, more grown up. So this is the Haley Powell series, and she's a food writer. So there's a mystery in her town, and then every 5th or 6th chapter is a recipe. So that's kind of fun.
I love it. Oh my God. The variety is so fun. And it's been such a blast talking to you today, Randy, about how you can really show up and change everything by using the full, beautiful instrument that we have right inside of us.
And if you have trouble, you can get a coach. There are many vocal coaches. You can go to a singing coach. If you have real trouble, if you have real vocal problems, you need to see a vocal therapist. But if you want to work on expression, there are people like me who can coach you. I'm Randy K. Google me and you'll find me.
Ah, good. All right. Well, Randy, you have been a joy to speak to today, and best of luck. I want you to go rest your voice now because you've been up since 3 a.m.
I'm gonna rest my body, and that'll rest my voice. So I have 2 more
Absolutely.
morning shifts to go. So
And that could literally be maybe the top tip is rest because that will make everything better. All right, Randy, thanks so much for joining me today.
thanks, Pat. Take care.
Cheers. Oh boy. Okay. This was fantastic. Really it's important because the moment that you open up your voice, right, you're either drawing people in or you're pushing them away. You don't want to push people away. You want to draw them in. So use those tips, use those techniques. And if you're looking for some more advice, also I have a warm up on ownyoursquare.com. We've got a vocal warm up there that you can listen to and take part in. There's a lot of other tips there, but it's important to consider how you are showing up, how you are using your voice. Just being self aware is so important. So be self aware and, have fun because when you show up in center square, right, you need to use every square inch of your body to own your square. Are you ready? I'll see you next time. Everybody, have a great day.